What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I'm the Malt activist, and I have a question for you. Do you like peated whiskies? Or do you prefer whiskies matured in sherry casks? But what about peated whiskies matured in sherry casks? Here's my top 5. Hey, what's up? If you're a first-time viewer, I think you like this channel, Have a look at the video, see what you think, and if you think that this content is right for you, then consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means a lot to me. So that would be great. To my returning viewers, thank you so much. You're still around. I'm surprised. You've really shown how you can stay loyal to someone and still have such a low benchmark in life. #humility. And finally, big thanks to my Patreon gang and my YouTube members. You guys are absolutely awesome. Without you, this channel would be absolutely nothing. All right, let's get on with the video. As a whiskey geek, whiskey nerd, I like all kinds of whiskey, all shapes and forms of whiskey, right? I do not ever discriminate, okay? If anything tastes good, I like it. And there's a certain style of whiskeys that I've, over the years gravitated towards because it's a nice mix of the two dominant types of whiskeys that are out there in the market. And when you put them together, like a little whiskey sandwich, then wow, then it's amazing, right? I'm talking about peated whiskies and whiskeys that have been matured in sherry casks. Now, I like both types of whiskeys. But how good is it when you can combine both these flavor profiles? Yes, I'm talking about peated whiskies matured in sherry casks. Now, if this is a concept completely new to you, then you're gonna love the rest of this video because I boiled down 5 whiskeys that I think you should try if this is the kind of flavor profile you're searching for. If you're already there and you're a whiskey noob like me, then I think that the rest of this video kind of affirms your take on the subject, right? Because these are very, very popular whiskeys. These are from very established distilleries. And most importantly, and I didn't mention this in the intro, most importantly, these are all under 100 pounds, right? So fairly affordable. I know. I don't want to get into this whole, 100 pounds, is it affordable or not? I'm just going to leave it out there. All I'm going to say is it's just my yardstick. It's just all these whiskeys are under 100 pounds and that's all that matters. If they're expensive or cheap, well, that's for you to decide, not for me. I take back what I said about them being affordable. No, that's not what I said. I just said that they're under 100 pounds. That's it. So these are my top 5 peated whiskies matured in sherry casks or partly matured in sherry casks that are all available to you for under 100 pounds. First up, off the bat, let's get the main one out of the way. I'm of course talking about the Ardbeg Uigeadail. Yes! I remember drinking the Ardbeg Uigeadail for the very first time back in the day and thinking, holy Lord of all that is holy, what is this? What is this whiskey? I just couldn't wrap my head around it, right? So the Ardbeg Uigeadail is bottled at 54.2% ABV. It's cask strength. It is roughly 80% bourbon matured and roughly 20% Oloroso sherry cask. It is, of course, a non-age statement whiskey. It is non-chill filtered, fantastic, has natural color, and comes at a price tag of 67 pounds. So well under our 100 pound benchmark. So this is what happened when Ardbeg reopened back in 1997. They were striving towards making their 10-year-old. But in the meantime, they had to sell something, right? They had to sell something. So there was a lot of old stock lying around. And basically what they did was in, I think 2003, they came up with the Uigeadail, which is one of the very first non-age statement whiskeys. And they kind of sort of drew a line in the sand and said, hey, stop worrying too much about age. This is a non-age statement whiskey, but it's hella delicious. And it was hella delicious. So, it was a mix of about 70-80% bourbon barrels and 20% roughly sherry casks. But these sherry casks were special sherry casks. These were sherry casks that were lying around in the Ardbeg warehouses for many, many, many years. They're almost vintage sherry casks. So when the first few when the first few releases of the Ugadal started coming out, they had this really top-notch sherry cask whiskey in it, which I remember tasting for the first time. And I think the earliest Oogie I've ever had is a 2005, right? So very, very close to its initial release date, and almost guaranteeing that it had these vintage sherry casks in it. And I remember drinking it and thinking, Jesus H. Christ, what is this? What is this unbelievable whiskey I'm having? And I absolutely fell in love with the Ardbeg Ugadal. And well, you know, that love kind of carries forward to this day, even though I have to admit, later releases, and I'm talking now 2019, 18, 17, there onwards, just not as good as the original juice, unfortunately. And I think it's largely because of the young sherry cask matured whiskeys that currently go into the bottle. I don't think they're the same quality as the original juice. And while the Ardbeg Oogie is a mighty fine whiskey in its own right, I don't think it holds a candle to its much older brothers and sisters that came out back in 2003, 4, and 5. Those whiskeys were like something to write home about. You know, they were just classics. The world over, people were amazed that you could make whiskey like this, and the Oogie sort of cemented its place in whiskey folklore even till today. Even if the spirit is not as good as it was back 20 years ago when it was released, it is still a mighty fine spirit. And it seems that essentially what they do is they take the 10-year-old, which is matured in first fill bourbon barrels, and they add about 20% sherry cask whiskey in it, Oloroso sherry cask whiskey in that mix, and come up with the Ugadal. So while not as good as previous years, it's still a mighty fine whiskey in my opinion. And if you haven't tried it, well, have you been living under a rock? Please come out of that rock, try this whiskey, because I still think it packs a punch. I still have hope for it that it's going to improve in quality now that Ardbeg has been functioning now for about 25 years roughly. So they should have some older stock lying around, the sherry stock lying around, that they can start putting in the Oogie and bring it back to its former self. I think that's what's going to happen. I know the people at the distillery, they're very, very, very committed to the quality of whiskey that they produce and they deliver. And I think the Oogie is going to take a upswing and come back as close to its former self as it can. So definitely, this is one of the quintessential peated whiskeys matured in sherry cask that you need on your shelf, no matter what anyone says, right? From a flavor point of view, we're talking bonfire, charred meats, fresh tobacco, fudge, toffee, vanilla, and lots of dark honey. Yeah, man, there's something to be said about this whiskey, which still holds a very, very special place in my heart. So if you haven't tried it, like I said, come out from under that rock, man, and go buy yourself a whiskey. It's just 67 pounds, and I think it's good value for money. If you're a seasoned whiskey drinker like I am, obviously you're not going to go out and buy the Oogie because you know what the older stock was like. But I promise you, and I hope that they turn that around and bring it back to its former self. So yes, our first whiskey on the list is the Ardbeg Ugadal. Our second whiskey on the list is the Kilchoman Loch Gorm. That's right. Another one of the whiskeys that when I drank it for the first time, I was like, whoa, what is this? This is absolutely stunning whiskey, right? It comes from Kilchoman Distillery, of course. It's bottled at 46% ABV. It's matured 100% in Oloroso sherry cask. It is a non-age statement whiskey. However, on their website, it says that at least the 21 version or 22 version has been matured for a minimum of 8 years. So there's some 8-9-year-old spirit in this. It is, of course, non-chill filtered, natural color, and available to you for 75 pounds. So slightly on the higher side if you ask me, but still a damn fine whiskey. Now, I had a very tumultuous start with Kilchoman when I drank it for the first time back in 2010. I want to say those whiskeys were very young, very, very rough, very brash, quite aggressive, and I did not agree with them. However, two reasons for that. One, it could have been because my palate wasn't sufficiently mature enough to appreciate those whiskeys, and frankly, maybe those whiskeys were too young and too brash and too aggressive for my liking. However, a few years down the line, I realized what an absolutely gorgeous distillery Kilchoman is, and what absolutely amazing spirit they produce. And this Kilchoman Loch Gorm is one of the fantastic peated sherry matured whiskeys that you can get your hands on. It is absolutely stunning. In fact, the one that I have is about between 4 and 5 years old. So, and this is back in, I want to say 2015. So this newer stock, which is minimum of 8 years old, is stunning, absolutely stunning. Like I said, matured 100% in first fill Oloroso sherry casks, beautifully peated. Flavors of toffee, lemon peel, dark chocolate, walnuts, tobacco, cinnamon, and hints of licorice. Yes, so wonderfully constructed. I know Anthony Wills, who's the founder and owner of Kilchoman Distillery. He's got such a sharp whiskey brain about him. He really knows how to craft his whiskeys, and his team is absolutely fantastic. If you ever get a chance to go to the distillery, do that. But in the meantime, get your hands on a Loch Gorm. Come on, it is absolutely stunning. Our third whiskey on the list is from my former favorite distillery in the whole world, Laphroaig. And I'm of course talking about the Laphroaig PX cask. Now this one is a travel retail exclusive. Interesting. And this one is bottled at 48% ABV. It is a non-aged statement and has an interesting maturation. It's first matured in bourbon barrels, then put in quarter casks, and then finally finished off in PX casks. It is non-chill filtered, and unfortunately it is artificially colored and comes at a fairly hefty price tag of £100 on the dot. It's actually $99.95, so it is under £100 technically. Again, but still a very, very, very tasty whiskey. You can feel the sherry in it. You can feel the island influence. You can feel the peat and the smoke in it as well. And to me, it's a wonderful drinking experience if that's the sort of flavor profile you want to go for. Like in terms of flavors, I'm talking iodine, licorice, fishnet, sea salt, red cherries, almonds, and oak. So wonderfully constructed flavors from a fantastic distillery. I just wish it wasn't colored. I mean, their bottles are dark green. I don't know why they bother coloring their whiskeys. No one's gonna notice. Nobody cares. Stop coloring your whiskeys. That's just the one thing that I have against Laphroaig policies. But you know what? This is a really good whiskey. I know it's worth £100 for a non-aged statement, but like I said, I'm not going to comment on the price. It is what it is. And if you haven't had it, I think it's one of those whiskeys that you should get your hands on and give it a try. Who knows? You might love it and thank me for it. And if you're not a subscriber, maybe you'll subscribe. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Whiskey number 4, we're talking about the Lagavulin Distillers Edition. Yes, that's right. This is an interesting whiskey from, again, one of my favorite distilleries in the whole world, Lagavulin. And it's a solid spirit. Let's see, it's bottled at 43% ABV, so the lowest ABV, by the way, in this entire list. Even though it's a non-aged statement, it's about 16 years old, and I'll tell you why. It is first matured in American oak, followed by PX cask. It is non-chill filtered, but unfortunately also artificially colored and available to you for a princely sum of £80. Now, this whiskey it's a very interesting whiskey, I have to tell you. It is probably the Lagavulin 16 with a little twist on it. So Even though it's a non-age statement, you can see the date of distilling and the date of bottling on the whiskey itself. And roughly whiskeys will be around 15 to 16 years old. So if you keep that in mind, then maybe the £80 price tag is not as bad as I'm making it out to be. And, of course, first matured in American oak, followed by a stint in PX sherry cask. So interesting whiskey this. They come out with one every year. Diageo does this with all its distilleries. So for example, there's an Bourbon Distillers Edition, there's a Talisker Distillers Edition, there's a Lagavulin Distillers Edition, there's a Kalila Distillers Edition. And essentially what I think they do is they'll take a standard expression from the distillery and then give it a little PX sherry twist, which is essentially what they do with most of the Distillers Edition series. They call the DEs. Again, the Lagavulin here, not an exception. So I think what they've done is they've taken 15-16-year-old spirit and exposed it to a further maturation in PX sherry cask and released it as the Distillers Edition. I just wish they wouldn't color it. Again, Lagavulin bottles, you can't see through them. I don't know why they color their whiskeys. There's absolutely no reason for that. No one's going to compare, you know what I'm saying? But yes, again, very fine drinking experience. I think the earliest one I have is a 1995 Distillers Edition. 94 Distillers Edition, meaning that it was probably bottled in 2008, 2009. So I have an earlier bottle which I drink from time to time, and it is an absolutely stunning whiskey. Again, like with the Oogie, I think the level of quality kind of dipped in the last few years, and I don't know the reason why. It is what it is. But if you can get your hands on some earlier Lagavulin Distiller Edition whiskeys, then I think you will really, really like them. But then, again, this is your very quintessential peated whiskey with a nice, strong sherry influence that you can get your hands on. We're talking about peat, vanilla, roasted malt, ash smoke, coffee, green apple, and lemons. Okay, on to the next whiskey. Our last whiskey is probably the most interesting whiskey on the lot. This is the Benromach Contrasts Peat Smoke. So Benromach, as you know, is a Speyside distillery, and they've decided, hey, we are going to pay homage to old school whiskey making in the Speyside, where everything was peated, right? And it's, I think, only off late, and when I say off late, I mean the last 100 odd years, no, maybe 50, 60 odd years, that Speyside whiskies by and large are not peated. However, back in the day, everything was peated. And so Benromach said, you know what, with some of our expressions, we'll peat our whiskeys. And so this one is bottled at 46%, and this one's peated at 55 ppm, by the way, so fairly high. Anyway, so bottled at 46%, it's a non-age statement, but again, it has a distilling date and a bottling date, making it roughly 10 years old. Matured exclusively in first fill Oloroso sherry cask. It is non-chill filtered, natural color, and available to you for the most magnificent price of £47, making this probably, in my opinion, the best value for money whiskey on our list. So for sure, definitely try this out. I'm a huge fan of the Benromach 100 proof, which they've discontinued, by the way. But if you get your hands on that, that is absolutely stunning. That is also a peated whiskey, bottled at about 100 proof, 57.1% ABV, if I'm not mistaken. That's imperial proof, by the way. And it is absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous, but they've discontinued it, and that's where my love affair with Benromach started, with that particular whiskey. But having said that, this whiskey is also very, very good. Flavor profiles of toffee, demerara, smoked bacon, cherries, red apples, vanilla, and ripe bananas. So yeah, a bit of an anomaly from the rest of the list, because it's typically a Speyside whiskey, but heavily peated at 55 ppm and then matured exclusively in first fill Oloroso sherry casks, making for a very, very interesting drinking experience. So that was it, man. That was it. That was my list of peated whiskeys matured in sherry casks, all under 100 pounds, which I think you should try at least once in your life. I think they're all worth buying, frankly, and I think you should get them if that's the sort of direction your palate is taking you. It is definitely a great space to be in. I love drinking sherried whiskeys with a hint of peat because it, like I said, it brings both worlds together. Something that I'm a huge fan of. So yes, I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. I hope you enjoyed this list as much as I did making it. Yes, there are some typical names in here, but it helps to reaffirm that some of these distilleries are doing a fantastic job and they should be recognized. And for those of you who are hearing about these whiskeys for the first time, dude, go out, get them, buy them, drink them. This is what this list is for, man. So yeah, there you go. If you have any whiskeys that are peated and with a sherry cask maturation, then please leave it down in the comment below. Maybe I'll make another new video based purely on your suggestions. But in the meantime, this was my list. Thank you for being around. You guys are awesome. Until next time, we meet again. I don't know how to end videos nowadays. I'm the Malt activist. Until next time, peace.